Time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy and Rene are here. We are going to talk about the Big Apple event coming Thursday. What does it mean it's been way too long? Is it a new Mac? Is it a new Apple TV? We'll debate the options. We'll also talk about Jony Ive's revelation that he's peeved at people stealing his designs and a whole lot more. Stay tuned. MacBreak Weekly is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 424, recorded October 14th, 2014. It's all about the Macs. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Audible.com. To download the free audiobook of your choice, go to audible.com/MacBreak. And by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. For a free 2-week trial and 10% off, go to squarespace.com and use the offer code MacBreak. And by NatureBox. NatureBox ships great-tasting, wholesome snacks right to your door. Forget the vending machine. Start snacking smarter with wholesome, delicious treats like baked cheddar potato sticks. To get your free NatureBox sampler, go to naturebox.com/twit. That's naturebox.com/twit. Free. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the Big Mac news. The Big Mac news. Maybe there's going to be some Big Mac news. Andy Ihnatko is here. Oh, I'm sorry. Isaac Asimov is here playing Andy Ihnatko on the show today. Good to see you, Mr. Asimov.
But I don't care. But I don't care.
Do you have Asimovian sideburns as an homage?
No, I have these sideburns as my trying it out when I was like just after college and saying, well, there's a compromise between not having to shave at all in the morning and not having to shave completely in the morning.
So this way you don't have to make a decision one way or the other.
It's like people have to look. If I can get away with one day of not shaving now because people they get right. Distracted by the other facial hair. There's a method behind it.
Yeah. There's a method to his madness, ladies and gentlemen. Andy writes for the Chicago Sun-Times and is an esteemed member of this panel. Also, Rene Ritchie from imore.com. He is also esteemed from Montreal.
I have no Big Mac news, Leo. I ordered a quarter pounder today.
Ah, very nice. How do you say quarter pounder in French?
Mac Royal.
Mac Royal.
Here we just call him a quarter pounder.
Quarter pounder. I love the Royale. Wasn't that, yeah, that was Pulp Fiction. They went on and on.
Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese. Anyway, welcome, gentlemen. Nice to see you. Alex Lindsay has the day off. He's busy with Dreamforce, the big Salesforce convention in the city. That's always been a big client of his. Did you get invitations?
I did.
I got my hopes up because the invitation said it's been way too long. I thought maybe they meant it's been way too long since Leo got an invitation to an Apple event, but nope. You didn't get one, Andy?
Nope.
I'm surprised.
It's not an entitlement.
No, it's not an entitlement. Absolutely. And it's the event, which is day after tomorrow. There's a lot of weirdness going on here. It's not a Tuesday, it's a Thursday. Is that unprecedented?
I can't remember one being on a Thursday.
Yeah, exactly. I can't remember the last time that happened. When Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays are there's precedents, but I can't remember Thursday.
Yeah. And then it's at Town Hall in Cupertino, which is a tiny venue compared to the Flint Center or Moscone West. Only, what, a few hundred seats, like 350 seats, I think.
Yeah. But then again, they did the 5S launch last year there, too. So.
Yeah. Oh, we've been to many events.
That wasn't a minor thing. So.
No, and the nice thing is Apple kind of controls it. So,
and they are streaming it this time. They didn't stream the 5S event.
You know, I think didn't we talk last week that Apple almost had to stream it because not to do so would be to admit failure.
And they announced it early, which they didn't do for
that's right.
Stream, yeah.
No, we will stream this one. No Chinese, we promise. New team probably in place, I would guess. So what do you make of this invite? It's way too long. Mark Gurman pointed out on his Twitter feed that is the 30th anniversary Macintosh logo, a small clip of it.
Yep.
Except for the colors. The colors are all green on the 30th anniversary.
I think it was rainbow.
It was well, green on the top.
Oh, okay, yeah. So they re-rainbowized it.
They re-rainbowized it because if you're only going to show the top, you have to make that a rainbow. So that's one thought. Somebody was saying, isn't that a finger pushing down into a squishy surface? Or could it be a book? Look, we're really going out of control here on the reading the tea leaves. But I do think that's a very provocative tagline. It's been way too long. And I'm curious what you make of that, gentlemen.
Yeah, I would guess it's going to be a focus on Mac, obviously, given the stuff that they really have to roll out this year if they're going to roll it out, if they're going to roll out new Macs at all. One thing that was in the back of my mind, only perhaps because I just want it to happen, is that maybe they're going to make it okay to use the traditional color Apple logo again. Because remember that the stickers commercial for the MacBook Air? I thought it was amazing that they actually depicted the traditional 6-color Apple logo for the first time in how long was it?
Steve took it all white when about 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, and it's been through some changes because I've been looking at my old iPhones, particularly as the way they boot up, and they've gone through the flat white icon to it's glossy white to its chromed logo.
Yeah, it's not white anymore, is it? It's shiny metal.
It is flat. Yeah, it's flattish though. They had a version that was lickable with like the gumdrop.
Yeah, but we've gotten rid of that.
Everybody's got rid of that. So it would be cool if we saw a not that we're going to see color logos on all the devices anymore, but at least and to mark the 30th anniversary, we're going to be reintroducing the Apple logo on select software and products, or at least we'll let you buy a watch with a watch face with a color logo on it for your 90s nostalgists.
Here's Gurman's tweet.
If they give them out at the event, Rene, get me one, please.
It's not exactly the same.
I won't
as
tell
the
them you
logo.
give them one.
Yeah.
Well, some people think that it means a return to the colored Macs because we haven't had those since the heady days of Blue Dalmatian and Flower Power.
Yeah.
Nilay Patel of The Verge was convinced it was Macs. I don't know. I disagreed with him just only because we would welcome a Mac event and we know they'll update the Macs. But Apple's focus has really been on phones and iOS of late. We know that they'll be doing Yosemite in the next whatever. They're up now to the 5th or the 6th beta. They're very close.
Yeah, if they follow last year's pattern, that'll be the day of the event.
Right. We know iOS 8.1 is due to support Apple Pay.
And continuity, yeah.
And continuity. So that it works with Yosemite. So that is probably going to be announced. Obviously iPads. They've got to announce iPads. You really think they would mix Macs into that?
They did last year. I mean, last year they had Macs and iPhones sort of. For a while, it was almost like there was an iPhone and iPod event and then a Mac and iPad event. Right. And last year in October, they did the iPads and the Macs. And it seems like that would fill. Because the iPad updates are going to be significant, but they're iterative. It's Touch ID and it's things like that. So there seems like there is time, especially if you're talking about Yosemite. If there is, and again, part of that is Intel, like whether Broadwell is ready and maybe it's not, but it seems like there is time to get some Macs up there.
I was hoping, and you've already said that's not going to happen this year, that it would be a new Apple TV, an updated Apple TV.
Sounds like spring.
That has been way too long. That's that and the Mac Mini are the two current Apple products that have not been updated for the longest amount of time, and the TV is considerably longer than the Mini.
It's a question of how often do you have to update the TV and what new features are you bringing that require? Like right now, the Apple TV got a HomeKit. Well, that can be updated with software. So can the new interface was on the existing Apple TV. If you're going to increase the hardware of the Apple TV, if you're going to put a new chipset, because it's still running a single core A5, if you're going to put a new chipset, if you're going to increase the storage, you're probably going to want to do something fun with it, and that could involve a game store or an app store. It could involve new partnerships.
I think,
but that's all new hardware, and that new hardware is again sounding like next year.
Okay.
Next spring.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb with no evidence, and of course a track record that is worse than Richard Nixon's. I'm going to go out on a limb. Did he predict Macintoshes? I don't think so. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's a new Apple TV with an app store and HomeKit.
Okay.
Is that crazy talk? And 4K and 4K support.
Crazy.
And 4K
early.
support. They have to do it for 4K, right?
there's a planet much like our own in which Apple is indeed going to be announcing that in 2 days. It's not one in which apes rule man. I don't think it's our reality. I think that you have to.
And how about the
12-inch with a teleporter to get there?
iPad, the Mac Pro, iPad Pro, or what?
Yeah,
Chelsea's calling it the iPad. Yeah. The USA Today said it's the iPad Maxi.
Max. They said Max? iPad Max.
That's no.
Are they drinking heavily there now?
He got to shoot inside an Apple store, which I thought for a piece of which speculating about an event was an unusual occurrence.
Yeah.
Because usually Apple doesn't want you shooting in Apple stores.
All right. Well, all right. So, I mean, I have no reason to think that, and you guys are much better connected. And obviously, Rene has good reason for saying next year, as you've said all along, for a new Apple TV. I see the market opportunity for a new Apple TV, though.
It just sounds like that project has gotten more and more important, and as it's gotten more and more important,
right.
The date for delivery. Like if you want, as we've seen with all the software they're pushing out now, I think a lot of us would rather they focus on one thing, knock it down, and then go on to the next thing, and not try to put even more stuff on the plate right now.
Yeah, and also, as Rene said, the next time they do a big update to the Apple TV, it's not going to be, hey, guess what? Now we've got ESPN4 channel.
Right.
It really is going to be, we are redefining the role of the Apple TV in the home, and it's no longer just another box for streaming Netflix, and it's no longer just a box for AirPlay. This is going to be a game console that has parity with the iPad. This is going to be the hub for HomeKit as the incredibly low-powered iOS device that can conceivably be on 24/7 and be there to monitor the health of your home network, your heating system, your lights, and all that sort of stuff. I really think that that's the next big announcement. But it's tempting because if any one product in the Apple line really attracts the phrase "it's been too long" like a magnet, it is the Apple TV, because it has this really weird, now it looks like a very weird interface. It isn't quite relevant to what the Apple TV does right now. It's very, very slow compared to every other box on the market. It's not as relevant as something like the Chromecast, which costs a third as much. If there's one thing in Apple's product line that really, really needs freshening up or cancellation, is the Apple TV, and they're not going to cancel it.
Thank you, Andy.
You're welcome.
Why don't we have any leaks on this, though? This is
On what, on the event?
Well, yeah. I mean, we've got leaks on the iPads, but what are they talking about? It's been way too long. That seems to be a great mystery, and I haven't seen any leaks that would give us any hints.
Well, that's always the case. It's always about speculation.
Speculation comes from the Broadwell chipset. That would imply Macs.
Or maybe they're saying that you know how focused Apple is on margins. Maybe they figured out that we can probably save half a cent if we decide to knock about maybe 8 inches off of every power cord and every USB cord.
Well, the thing about it is such a great tagline is because it could apply to so many things, and it gets people talking. It is. And again, like the graphics department just gets these things and they put them together, so it's hard to read too much into the design. But the tagline, someone actually has to think of those.
I think Tim Cook signs off on the tagline, right?
It's well, if not, I mean, certainly Phil Schiller, and I'm sure Tim Cook can veto it if he doesn't like it.
Yeah, you guarantee. I mean, maybe it's Schiller coming in and saying, "Hey, Tim, what about this?" And Tim goes, "Yeah," and that's it. Go. But you got to know that he's. I mean, I would want to if I were him.
That's what he said about Jony. Like he said, I guess that the ultimately decision is mine, but I trust the people that I work with, in their specialties.
You let them come up with it. You don't say, hey, guys, I've been thinking we should say it's way too long. What do you think? No, you let them come up with some ideas. And probably, they had 4 boards, and Tim went, yeah, I like that one. What's interesting is the last invitation had no semiotics, no clues, no hints. It was really straight. And this is a return, in fact, even maybe more than ever, to this kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge messaging.
Well, it is 30 years. I mean, we had the 30th Mac anniversary, and this is using the same logo, and it is at least partially a Mac event, and there are rumors of a new iMac. And they were at the Flynn Center where they announced the Mac and the iMac. I mean, it is a special year, and Apple has been more nostalgic this year than they have in previous years.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. I would love to see a new, I don't know, what would you want? I mean, the Mac Pro is a new Mac. I mean, we got the Mac Pro less than a year ago, and I love it. People want a mini, but I think that's a specialty market. Alex Lindsay notwithstanding, in our chat room, that's a specialty market. That's not a big seller for Apple.
It's the iMac. I mean, if the Retina
The
MacBook
iMac
Air
is it.
really is delayed because of Broadwell, then the iMac is the next big target. And the iMac can do things that the other computers can't because it's integrated. They don't have to worry about dual link Thunderbolts if they want to go to high definition. And the Mac, it had its redesign. It had that one where it went super thin, but it is their flagship desktop computer. And if they wanted to do something fun with that, it's certainly within their purview.
I know. It could be Apple announcing they're coming back to Macworld Expo. And never mind.
Ouch, too soon.
Too soon.
Really too soon. Sad to say that, well, we kind of saw the writing on the wall when IDG, the parent company, killed Macworld Magazine, the print version of Macworld Magazine. The announcement came out today that Macworld Expo is also shutting down. Yeah. That's kind of sad. Paul Kent told Six Colors today. That's Jason Snell's new blog. Nice scoop, Jason. Our Mac IT event, the world's premier event for deploying Apple in the enterprise, will continue next year with details to be coming. But we are announcing today Macworld iWorld is going on hiatus and will not be taking place. Hiatus. Like Firefly is on hiatus.
Well, I mean, I had a chance to speak to Paul too, and it is sad because it's such a great, there's so many great memories from that show. The iPhone was introduced at that show, and I believe he's going to be on the Macworld podcast with Chris Breen later today, so he can at least get his view out. Yeah. Mac IT is going to go on, but it's like you said, Leo. It's hard to find a place for these things in our new digital world.
All trade shows are suffering, and the last few years of Macworld iWorld have been. It's been smaller and smaller, and really it all began when Apple stopped coming.
Yeah, but that was the first push that kind of started the wobble. It really was. It's hard to maintain a huge show like this because the whole reason to hold a show like that is because you have the press attention of the world and then the user's attention, and there are so many more efficient ways of doing that now. It's not even so much that the market for shows has gone away so much as it's shifted. Macworld might be gone, but its place has been taken up by at least 4, 5, 6, 7 other shows that happen. Just one in Chicago, one in Portland, one in Boston, one in New York, for a narrower audience where it's not the buildup where Adobe is going to have a booth, Microsoft's going to booth. It's going to be just a gathering of about 4, 5, 600 people, right? Who are going to pay a lot more money but have a more intense experience.
We have a great show here in Sonoma County every year, a great Mac show.
I was at Singleton this weekend, and there's going to be Coco Love, I think, 2 weeks from now. And then there's going to be the Yosemite Conference and OOL and NS North and NS Conf. and
NetCat Conference and
What is Singleton?
Singleton is the conference run by Luc Van Daal, Guy English, Scott Morrison. It's sort of like the old Wolf Wrench C4 conference, where it's developers, media, and people, like just for the community. And it's a single track, so people.
Oh, nice.
There's one person on stage talking, and there were great speakers this year, including John August was the keynote speaker, and John Gruber was closed off the show because he'd opened the original one. This was the last year for Singleton, which is interesting because C4 lasted 4 years, Singleton has lasted 4 years, but they're birthing up all these new shows. Like Coco Love is going to have their first show in a couple of weeks, and OOL is doing fantastic stuff in Ireland, and there was one in Warsaw that they were talking about. And it seems like maybe you can't get everyone to San Francisco anymore once a year, but you can bring shows to people all over the world.
Well, and that's what Paul Kent was trying to do with Macworld, was make it a user show. But that's not big enough probably for IDG. They want it to be the Mac show, and obviously not one of many, and that's really what it has become.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a wistful morning for me because realized the first Macworld Expos were in Boston, and so from high school onward, I've been going to. I think I went to my first one, and I'm trying to figure out whether it was 85 or 86.
First one was in 85.
It might have been the very first one. If not, I definitely went to one in 86, and it was given that every single summer was set up in the second week in August, I'm going to be sweating my guts out, walking in the desert wastelands between the World Trade Center and the Bayside Expo Center in Boston. This is before Boston had any really good convention space. They had to split up between 2 different places. And everyone I know is coming, and I'm going to be meeting everyone I know, and it's going to be up for 20-hour days for 4 or 5 days a week, and boy, is it going to be great. And so I stopped going to iWorld, the expo, about 2 or 3 years ago, but it's sort of like the playground set and the school you used to go to. You don't want to go on the swings anymore, but you're glad that they were still there. So
yeah. Oh, I went to every one of them, and it was such an exciting thing. We would go with our cameras. We did shows there. But even before then, I remember so well, the excitement of going to Macworld Expo. And it would tie up San Francisco downtown for days. 4 days, there'd be gridlock around the Moscone Center. I don't know, what was its biggest, at its peak? Here's an article from the San Francisco Chronicle from the 2007 Macworld. They said 40,000 enthusiasts. Yeah, strained traffic and parking. Right? Is that probably the biggest one?
Yeah, the iPhone event.
That was the iPhone event, yeah.
Yeah.
I met you and Andy for the first time at Macworld, and so many other people.
So many other people, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, because that's one thing that we're missing. I mean, Singleton is great, UL is great. These regional shows are great, but it's nice to have. WWDC is the only opportunity that we have where there's a chance that everybody all over the world who has an interest in Apple is going to be converging on the same coordinates at the same date, spatial coordinates as well. So yeah, you get those wonderful opportunities to meet someone you would not have met otherwise, and that's what really year after year kept me going back to Macworld Expo. Not only the keynote, but the idea that I have no idea who I'm going to see. I have no idea what I'm going to discover there. But I know that lots of stuff is going to be happening there. And since the dissipation of the world's focus on one event a year, it became just not a good payoff for any of these companies.
And as somebody in the chat room is pointing out, Dave Z, Apple gets more traffic every day at an Apple store than any Macworld,
yeah.
Right?
And CES started doing the big pavilion with all the accessory vendors, which was before CES, and they didn't want to do both, and it was just.
Well, and accessories, I mean, that's not a very interesting reason to go to a trade show to see.
No, but they paid for a lot of booths.
Oh,
and
yeah,
fund the show.
Yeah, it was money there. Anyway, sad to see. We will miss you, Macworld Expo. It was, but the whole world is changing, and I do hope Apple is going to do something to celebrate the Macintosh. Thursday. We will be here 9:30 in the morning, right after TNT. Mike, Sarah, and I will host our coverage. Andy, if you'd like to join us, since you're not coming out, you're more than welcome, unless you want to watch the stream. We will watch the stream, but what we do is, of course, comment as the stream goes by.
I should be available. After 3 or 4 days of walking around New York, any excuse for sitting in my sofa and watching 3 screens is a good one.
And, you could just kind of sit there, watch the screen, and throw in you could be the color guy, like on Monday Night Football, they got 4 guys, and one guy says one thing every few, hours. You could be that guy.
I'll be the retired linebacker who says,
exactly.
It's really going to be all about the defense. Exactly. I believe it's going to be about the defense with this one.
Apple is so defensive.
A rainbow-colored Mac Mini, says Burfunkel in our chat room. I don't know. It'd be nice to
see.
I don't know.
Eat a bowl of fashion and throw up all over it.
The iMac is the problem Apple has, and this is true with the iPad too, is they're pretty close to perfect.
Well, that was the rumor for the Retina MacBook Air, was that Apple's going to offer them in space gray, silver, and gold, because they are becoming more fashionable, and the line blurs between a big iPad and a very small Mac. But I don't know if they would scale gold to an iMac just for fashion.
Yeah,
gold iMac might be a little much.
And there are also ways you can improve the iPad still, but you're right. The iMac right now they can do new case designs. I think the most radical thing they could do is to say, guess what? If 5 years from now you start doing Final Cut and you want more storage, we'll let you put in more storage.
Yeah, I don't see that.
Crazy.
I don't see that. I love the Razer iMac. I have one on my desk. It's beautiful. And this is the problem the computer industry faces in general, is that people are pretty much satisfied with what they got.
The iPad industry too.
Yeah. I mean, it took them 2 or 3 years to get everything spun up, but across the other side of the office, I actually took out my 2008 iMac, essentially to use it as a screen sharing terminal for the computers in the house. But I find that I'm actually using it for real stuff, because those idiots at Apple, they build things to last, and they build operating systems that work with previous systems, and they don't necessarily require a lot of overhead in order to work. I mean, the new design iMac is a little bit controversial to me. I would love to see a new iMac where you could actually put in a memory card without having to turn the thing around at least 130 degrees. But at least it gives Apple opportunity to show off their design chops with every single one. Now that we are used to the fact that we are not going to get expanded, even though it's a desktop, we're not going to get expandability. The design might trump some certain practical things, or at least where the answer to that question is going to be, well, if you want a really accessible card slot, hey, that's why we gave you so many USB 3.0 ports. You can actually put that slot wherever you want it to be. So at least maybe Apple will take this opportunity to really, really thrill us with an exciting new design.
And to Andy's point, I mean, because Apple, there was an article again repeated in the Huffington Post about how Apple tries to force people to upgrade. They have family and friends who are using computers like Andy's and iPads, like my mom uses an iPad too still, and they want all those to work for their family too, which is why they are very good about supporting old hardware.
All right, we will be here live, and Andy, you'll be joining us from the couch on Thursday, day
from the
tomorrow.
sofa of solitude.
I will stand up and cheer if there is a new Mac. I will, or something exciting with the Mac. But I just can't think of what a fingerprint reader.
4K, 5K.
What does a Mac need? I think a 4K.
Okay, but think about how cool it was when they came out with the Mac Pro as their response.
I'm loving it.
Right now, imagine what they could do if they simply say, "We're going to throw out every single design cue that we thought that was necessary for an iMac or for a Mac Mini. Let's just gravitate towards a shape that we like, that we would like to have on our desks, and then we'll make it practical for sale." As you can complain a little bit about some of the design choices, especially if you're the sort of person who really needs lots of drive bays. But you can't deny that, man, isn't it just like Apple was excited about breaking free of the beige box syndrome with the iMac? Now they're saying, well, we're going to give you something that does not look anything like a computer, except for when you turn it on and you actually see how fast it goes. So I would love to see Apple do something like that with a new iMac or especially a new Mac Mini.
The Mac Pro is fashion forward. You'd have to agree.
Exactly.
So maybe they will. I have one complaint.
Mac.
I found one complaint after all this time with the Mac Pro, which I love. Of course, I spent a huge amount of money on it and then added SSD, boot drive, and all that stuff. But, okay, so when you turn it, they made a big deal about this. The light comes on, all the things light up. You know what doesn't light up? The on-off switch. So I'm trying to find the on-off switch. Everything's lit up except the one thing, because I think it was turned off, and I wanted to turn it on, and I couldn't find it. So I had to like turn on lights and look. And
I'm so
why would
fascinated
they turn that on? Why would that light up?
I know. I'm so fascinated by some of these design choices. I'm testing out a humongous TV set, and it comes with this amazing remote control that's like almost like a Nintendo controller. It's like a flattened egg, and it has gyroscopes and it can be used like as a 3D pointer. And the one thing they didn't put into is how about backlighting some of the keys so that while I'm watching this movie on this humongous TV in the dark, I will be able to figure out where the volume control is. Yeah. It's like I will not fall back on that cheap comment. They should probably actually test it out before they ship it. Of course they test it out, but I would love to hear the conversation that said, no, we really can't put a backlight on even the power key on this, and here's the reason why.
Yeah. There's some reason. How about, I like this. You could do it with Android. A stick, a Mac Mini stick. How small could you make a Mac Mini? I guess you could make a Mac Mini as small as an iPhone. What about a Mac Mini HDMI stick?
Well, if you want it to be PCIe, I think it's going to have to at least have the bus.
Yeah. I think heat would be a problem because there is such an immense difference between a mobile processor and a desktop processor. And we're not just talking about like how fast it is or the bus. We're actually talking about how well can it dissipate heat, how well can it handle being ramped up and ramped down. It's something that I just started talking to an engineer a couple weeks ago who's been working on this sort of thing, realizing that, gee, I thought I knew next to nothing about the problems of chip design. Turns out that I know just slightly more than less than nothing. I'm sorry, trying to be too clever. It's like as little as you think you understand the problems that are involved in designing CPU. Unless you design CPUs, you really do know nothing about what the problems are.
Our show today brought to you by our good friends at Audible.com. You guys need to help me out here because I have 2 credits, and I want to buy something. I want to buy a book. Audible is 150,000 books. It is the ultimate in audio bookstore. And, I think back to when I first joined Audible in the year 2000. We've come so far. When I first joined, they didn't have any sci-fi. Then they realized that was a problem because a lot of the older sci-fi hadn't been put on audio books. They barely put them on paper. It was a kind of a shoestring operation. So Audible created Audible Frontiers to record all of the classic sci-fi. And so now you can really enjoy so much great stuff, including the Asimov books on Audible.com. Mysteries, thrillers, self-development and business, romance, kids stuff. They've got it all at Audible.com. Now, let me ask you, Andy, because as I said, I can get 2 books. What should I Give me something to think about.
The next one in my queue, I haven't read it yet, but I'm really fascinated by the topic, is by Walter Isaacson. It's called The Innovators, How a Group of Hackers, Geniuses, and Geeks Created the Digital Revolution. And on the cover of the book, you have two people that most people recognize, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. You have one person that many people will recognize, that will be Mr. Turing, and then a woman at the very, very top that you recognize chiefly because there are so few women who get any sort of notoriety for all their contributions to technology, and one of them is, of course, Lady Ada. And the theme of the book is not so much, look at these 4 geniuses who shape the world today. It's more like there is it tries to address the mythology that Steve Jobs smoked the ground with his magic lightning rod, and up from the ground smoked the Mac and the iPhone and the iPad. That it really is all about teams and bringing people together and building upon the work that other people did. This is why I get kind of weary when Android people say, "Oh, well, enjoy your big phone that Apple copied from Samsung," and Apple says, "Oh, enjoy this thing that you copied from the iPhone." When really very few things come from a vacuum. There's always a universe of ideas coming around, and people will take an idea and improve it and do their own articulation of it. Then that articulation inspires somebody else who says, that works really well, let's do something like that. So if that is I've read a couple of reviews and a couple of interviews that made me hopeful that that's what the book is all about. In any event, I'd like to. It's a topic that's very, very interesting, and I've already spent one of my credits on it. I have not listened to it yet, but it's in the queue for my drive tomorrow.
I guess I really should read it. I mean, it kind of is my business. So there's one pick. What we're going to do is we're going to set you up with a free book. How about that? Because we know many of you have been hearing these ads for years, and there are people there who have not joined Audible. I just want you to try it. Maybe you're nervous because you don't know if listening to a book is the same as reading it. It's better, I think, because you can listen when you can't read, like driving a car on your commute or doing your dishes or walking the dog or at the gym on the treadmill. I listen all the time. And what's nice is I get to really do a lot of reading. I just started Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. It's really great so far. Just finished the book of the summer. Took me a little longer than the summer to read it. The Goldfinch, 30 hours or something. There's so much fiction, nonfiction, history. I love the biographies on Audible.com. I got the book that you recommended some time ago, Andy, about the history of Manhattan, Dutch Manhattan. I'm looking forward to that. Can't wait to read that. It's just, I don't know. I just love Audible. I don't know what else to say. If you go to audible.com/MacBreak, you can sign up for the Gold account. That's the book a month account. We like to ease you into this. That means you'll pay nothing for the first 30 days. Your first book is free. You get to keep it even if you cancel. You also will get the daily digest of the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal every single day as part of your subscription. It's a really good deal and free for the first 30 days. So give it a try. Audible, A-U-D-I-B-L-E, Audible. How to shoot video that doesn't suck. I can see we're on your account, Chad. That's great.
Sometimes I wonder, I just want to go over to my library and be like, no, look at the books that I'm reading because
you've got good taste.
Yeah, I'm right now reading the Freddie Mercury biography.
Oh, I'd love to read that.
Which is really good. And then you were talking about Audible Frontiers. I've been getting into this series by R.A. Salvatore, and all of these are Audible Frontier books, and so I've been really happy about.
I read a lot of his books when with the kids because he used to do young adult fiction. So is this young adult or is this adult?
I don't think this would be sold in young adult. I think it'd be sold in fantasy. But yeah, this is the Drizzt series of the Dark Elf trilogy.
He's one of my favorites. I really loved reading those to the kids.
Really good.
Awesome.
And they do a great job. The voice actor is amazing, and now I'm into the Crystal Shard trilogy as well.
Awesome. He's written quite a few books, Mr. Salvatore.
I've written a lot.
Holy cow.
Books.
Holy cow. Audible.com/MacBreak. Get your first book free. We thank them so much for, gosh, they've been supporting Twit for years, and many other podcasts too. They're really they're a great company. You were at Singleton. Rich Siegel was also at Singleton. He is the creator of BBEdit, which is for even the Apple web page for years was written using BBEdit. It's a text editor, but it's just kind of the power tool for the Mac. I really like it. It has command line, bash shell worksheets. So like the old Mac Programmer's Workshop, that's where I first used that years, in the 80s, writing software for the Mac. I love that feature. But Rich has been doing this weird bifurcated distribution because of the limitations in the Apple Mac Store. He has two versions. One, the full version that you can download from his site, and the other on the App Store. He made an announcement about that this week.
Yeah, and I should say that I'm a huge fan of BBEdit. Every one of my reviews is written in BBEdit because it's the only thing. Like, I try to throw those reviews in Google Docs and they choke, and BBEdit handles them without a single hitch. It's an amazing program.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was one of the speakers at Singleton, and he went through these slides, and he was saying, we're going to bring BBEdit off the Mac App Store. Now, it's not because of Apple's policies. It's not because of the developer tools. And he had slides explaining the problems with each of these things. So he had about 4 or 5 problems with Apple's, policies, 4 or 5 problems with the developer tools, 4 or 5 problems with their constraints, things like sandboxing. And in the end, he said it's none of these things, and everyone was expecting the punchline to be it's all of these things. But he said the reason that he was doing this was because of quality of life, and everyone sort of scratched their heads for a second. But he said when you take all these things together, he writes BBEdit because he loves it. He wants to make an app that he wants to enjoy that he's making the app, and all of these things contributed to it not being as fun. And he was very clear, like, the Mac App Store is great for some apps. It brings a lot of attention to them, but those are sort of, like, to paraphrase him, he didn't use this word, but those are sort of popular apps. And to take an app as long-standing as BBEdit, or like Coda, which was on the Mac App Store until recently, when Panic pull it down, those apps, to go back and retrofit them for sandboxing, and he was just explaining, like, how hard it is to get the tools to download and how many hoops you have to jump through. And he wanted to enjoy making BBEdit again. And he didn't condemn them. He was very... he made sure to say that. And he said, maybe I'm going to keep my eye on it. It's changed a lot in the last few years. And if it changes enough that I can go back on there, I'll absolutely go back on there. But for now, you're going to have to go to Bare Bones to get it.
Nice piece of software. Go to Bare Bones and get it. It's got so much for text editing, for word processing, but also for programming and, shell commands. I love the shell worksheets.
And I think people who would want BBEdit would be able to go and get it. Like, I think there's a certain class of apps where you need to make them front and center, and BBEdit can stand on its own.
He really doesn't need by any. I mean, there are a lot. BBEdit's designed for people who use Git. If you can use Git, you could figure out how to download BBEdit.
You can get it.
You can get it. I'm sorry, Eddie.
No. I was just going to say. I mean, I'm glad to see that he's making the quality. I'm sorry about that. Making the quality of life issue, because it really is cumulative effects of little tiny annoyances, and a lot of these things that you would call annoyances are things that make the App Store so attractive for so many people. And I'm glad that somebody as prominent as Rich is able to say, look, if you're a developer, don't just assume you need the App Store to make the decision that's best for you, for your product, for your users. And in his case, that was exactly right. It's BBEdit. Let me add my own recommendation to the pile. I switched to a different app with great reluctance, only because Scrivener was such a great tool for writing novels and writing books and writing long length things. But until then, for about 10 years, everything I wrote was in BBEdit. But it's like, who would have guessed that JPEG eventually replaced GIF or GIF, but nothing ever replaced the usefulness of the text file. As other formats have come along, the molecule of conversation, of data between one computer and another is still text, and the files that create the software that we all rely on is still text. And to this date, there is just no better tool than BBEdit. So much so that almost nobody wants to go after BBEdit, because almost every great piece of software development starts with the question, well, what does the current tool, the most popular tool, not do? And there are almost no answers for that when the greatest tool is BBEdit. So, barebones.com, and the current version is I just got the update 10.5 something. 11 is coming soon.
Is it?
It's there's a beta. I got to check my email, but I believe a new beta has been in the works and might be coming out very quickly. Again, it's not, and it's also not one of these things that just sort of lingers on the vine and requires prodding in order to update. These there are always updates coming. I'm on the beta list, and it's one of those great beta lists where I had to basically create another mailbox for it because there were just so many. Hey, we're doing a 0.01 release right now. Okay, now we're doing another 0.01 after this, and it's never because we discovered that it causes the glazing on any insulated windows inside the office you're using it to melt off. So we're going to have an emergency update. No, it's like, hey, we found a better way of doing this, or we found a more efficient way of doing this, and that's how we're doing it. It's always being improved. It's one of the best. It is one of the best apps you can get on the App Store.
Amazing how he's evolved it from the early days of the Mac and going to Carbon and going to Cocoa and going to the Mac App Store, and he's just brought that entire app with him throughout the history of the Mac.
$50. There is a free version called Text Wrangler. Everybody who uses a Mac should just have Text Wrangler on their Mac. I get mad when I go and
Leo will come to your house.
I get mad. What, you don't have Text Wrangler? What is wrong with you? You should all have it. Bare bones.
Don't give him U2 albums. Give him Text Wrangler.
Yeah, that's free. It's free. And but it's not on the App Store. Let's see here. Moving right along. I got caught up with BBEdit. Walgreens secret memo released accidentally says they're planning October 18th to launch Apple Pay. I imagine they're not alone. These are point-of-sale terminals that you would tap with your phone. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Does that mean that we're going to have a kind of a general release of it this week?
If that's true, yeah. I mean, if that's true, yes. I mean, we got an event on Thursday. We're pretty much expecting that Apple's going to be dropping the rest of their shoes on that date, and it's a training document, so who knows if they're going to hold it? But
right,
they've always been saying sometime between the 17th and the 23rd, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Saturday is the 18th. That's a big shopping day, so. I would actually go to Walgreens to buy something, just so I could go.
You would go through the McDonald's drive-thru.
But that makes me think though. If I were a big retailer like that, and I knew that I have this new tap to pay service that's going to be on the most popular phone of the year, certainly as an individual model, I would want that to roll out on the slowest day of the week, like maybe a Tuesday.
Very confident.
Because there are going to be all kinds of people who are like, hi, what's the cheapest thing you have? This pack of gum? Great. Now, okay, wait, hang on. Wait, hang on. Okay, do I tap? Wait, no. Do I now? Do I tap now?
Now? Do I tap
and
now?
Meanwhile, there's people who need insulin behind them. It's like, yeah, can I just give you cash for this? Because my grandma is jittering and yeah. It might be a bad day to be in Walgreens and try to buy a bottle of Gatorade on Saturday is what I'm saying.
Yes. I'm going. This is to me like waiting in line for the iPhone.
Yes. No, you should do that. You should have a live cam. You should be the first in line. Camp out in front of Walgreens.
Friday at Best Buy. This is it. This is the big time.
Yeah, Black Friday release would be fantastic.
Oh, yeah, let's really. Well, that's probably why they're doing it now, right? They want to get it out before then. Jony Ive says those guys at Samsung, they're just thieves. And then, of course, everybody on Google Plus said, oh, Johnny. Johnny. He said, look, we work really, really hard to do a new iPhone. This is a Vanity Fair interview. We do work really, really hard for years to make that iPhone. And then months later, somebody does an exact copy. I don't see it as flattery, said Sir Johnny. I actually see it as theft. By the way, no one stole his first design for the iPhone, which you're seeing on the screen right now.
But that's a prevalent sentiment at Apple because there's a lot of engineers and directors and managers who didn't spend time with their family for years,
right.
And they went through iteration after iteration, and it took them 2 years to get from Project Purple to get to the first iPhone and all the apps, and they feel like that gave everyone else a shortcut. Whether that's a justifiable feeling, that's the general sort of feeling they have.
But
he was asked about Xiaomi, the Chinese firm, which not only copies Apple's phones, but their CEO wears black mock turtlenecks and says one more thing on stage. He said, let's see, what did he say about that? Oh, he didn't. Maybe he was just asked about that.
Well, there's also a question of scale. Like there's elements that you can copy, and certainly Apple brings things like the notification center. But for a while, Samsung was literally making a USB cable look like a dock cable, and that was probably just tweaking them enough that they started to develop a bit of a scar.
We should point out that Apple has lifted its share of ideas from other platforms, including Android.
I mean, this is why I appreciate I respect when a real designer like Jony Ive or any other industrial designer talks about theft like that, and that's something you have to listen to. It's when like other commentators are going to again insist that, oh well, Samsung has never created anything. They just watch what Apple does and they copy it. You can really also go into Apple and say like the click wheel for the iPod. Okay, that's nice, but there was a Bang & Olufsen phone that had the exact same click wheel, and then you don't want to. It's boring and unnecessary to demand that every new piece of technology passes some sort of purity test that you yourself have devised before you can say no, this is something that has not been stolen from someplace else. Because it's an interesting debate. It can be a very long debate, but it's a debate that's best done on a stage like that in front of 1,000 people with 3 or 4 real designers. For the rest of us, it really is just buzzes, clicks, pops, and buzzes when we could be talking about things that are actually functional and interesting.
Everybody stands on the shoulders of others. No one works in a vacuum.
There is such a thing as copying. But I don't even think that's necessarily a bad thing. I would hate to live in a world in which the first person to get a touchscreen phone out there gets to be the only company that does touchscrene phones.
Right.
Well, there is a definite benefit to consistency for the users. Like it is a consumer advantage for us to know how to use new devices when we get them.
Right, and it's also I don't think that anybody can argue that there has been a huge benefit to the fact that the iPhone is the expression of Apple's philosophy of product design, interface design, and what a multi-touch phone should represent in a person's day-to-day life. I'm glad that Samsung gets to have their own form of expression. That LG, that even that Nokia gets to have their forms of expression. Because otherwise, if we have one company whose only design is, you know what, maybe a card slot would be useful, but we don't want to break up we don't think it'd be that useful, and that would get in the way of making a super, super, super slim phone. Well, that's fine, but unless you're the only company who are making these phones. So what a terrible world it would be if the only person who could ever make an idea are the first people to make a certain idea.
Yeah, I mean, you could go back and forth, and it's more about scoring points than about celebrating great design, saying, you know, be original. But you can't design in a vacuum, because then you get something like that first iPhone, which is like no one would know how to use it because there's no reference.
Well, actually, I think that a lot of industrial design is that you see, especially in demonstrations like that, they're what you might call couture design,
right? Where
they're never designed for to be actually sold to regular people. This is, hey, we're inside the lab, we can design anything. Let's just express some ideas that we just kind of like. But if there's one message that I'd like to send to like people, again, Apple fans, Android fans, all these other fans, it's like whoever it is you're trying to impress, you know. Tim Cook is not going to read your Tumblr blog and then write you a letter with a free iPhone saying, God bless you for understanding us and defending us. You know, it's not that important.
Yeah, I forget if it was John Syracuse or not, but he was saying, I think it was John, and he said that, you know, in fashion, you can't copyright a shirt. Or sorry, you can't trademark a shirt. You can't trademark a pair of pants.
That's why there are knockoffs.
Why everyone, and everyone puts their logo on it, because you can trademark a logo, which is why some phones have big logos on, you know, because those are identifiable in branding. And if it is a big black slab, that's what you want it known for. And Apple makes these devices and deliberately doesn't put a lot of branding on them. So for them, their identity gets very tightly interwoven with their design aesthetic.
I do like what Jony said when he was talking about working with Steve Jobs. He says, Steve was the most focused person I've met in my life. It's terrifying that when you really, truly focus, it seems a bit illegal. You can achieve so much. What focus means is saying no with every bone in your body to something you know is a good idea, but you say no because you're focused on something else. I remember talking to Steve and asking why he was perceived as harsh. And I said to Steve, couldn't we be more moderate? He said, why? I said, because I care about the team. He said, no, Jony. You're just really vain. You just want people to like you. I'm surprised at you because I thought you really held the work up as the most important and not how you're perceived by people. It's an interesting point of view. People misunderstand Steve because he was so focused, says Jony Ive.
There was a great story, and I forget who was with, but someone was talking to Steve Jobs about this great business that Apple could get into and how much money they would make. And Steve Jobs' response was, "Yes, we could do that, and yes, we could make this money, but is that really a business Apple wants to be in? I don't think so."
Yeah, yeah. I say that all the time. I think if you're in business, if you don't, you become, or anything, you become scattered. You have to kind of make a beeline for your values and your vision and your goal, and that's the most successful businesses do that.
Well, we say that, but like Google is now competing with almost everyone in tech. They have Amazon businesses and Apple businesses and Microsoft businesses.
Well, they have a different structure. I think this is intentional on Google's part because they want to continue to innovate. And so what they do is they make every little division be like a startup with its almost autonomous and its own, teams. And they even internally want the teams to compete, I think, a little bit for attention and resources and marketing. And so I think that's an intentional goal. And what they're trying to do is stay innovative. That's the innovator's dilemma they're trying to avoid. So it's a reasonable philosophy. It's a reasonable point of view.
Yeah, I love the dynamic between, it's not just one company's doing something right or another company's doing things wrong. It's that each one has their own philosophy that really permeates almost every office of that campus. And I do think that Google's philosophy is that they are like a university where they're not, physics is not their one product. They are a compound in which lots of different people are pursuing lots and lots of different kinds of research, and the football program is going to be making lots and lots of money. So that's where all the logos are in the gift shop. But there's also somebody in some room somewhere that's pursuing an experiment that is absolutely daft, but they've got enough money that, hey, let's find out how daft this is, and there's a good chance that there's at least a non-zero chance it's going to work out correctly. So that's why you get some half-baked ideas from Google that develop into really good ideas, and Apple has takes fewer shots at the basket, but they tend to sink more baskets. So neither procedure is really right, but I'm glad that there are different companies pursuing different philosophies like that.
Absolutely. Our show today brought to you by Squarespace.com. There's a company that has a very concrete vision for what they want to be. That is the best web hosting and the best content management system melded into one great product that will make a better website for you and everyone else. And I think Squarespace is remarkable in how they pursue that vision. Better websites for all. Visit Squarespace.com. Click the Get Started button. For 2 weeks, you can use it. You don't have to give them a credit card or anything. Just set up a site. You'll start with the 25 beautiful templates. Every template is e-commerce ready. Every template is mobile responsive. What they do is they give you the foundation for your website that is state-of-the-art. And by doing the hosting and the software like this, they can keep it state-of-the-art. In fact, they just released their 7th version of the Squarespace platform, Squarespace 7. Because the web moves fast, but you don't have to worry about that. In fact, you can move your content from one template to the other without any issues. Are these the new 7 templates? What are these, Chad? These are beautiful. I don't know what they are. They're new, aren't they?
I've never seen this one before.
Yeah.
But
that's the great thing. You should go to
I don't know.
Go to Squarespace.com all the time because you never know what you're going to see. They have the best engineers there. And by the way, when you get support from Squarespace, you're getting it directly from the engineers. They've never outsourced their support. Live chat and email support 24/7. They also have a great customer help portal so you can get self-help articles, video workshops, forums. It's really it's state-of-the-art. And starts at $8 a month, which includes a free domain name when you sign up for a year. They have great apps too. The Squarespace Metric app for iPhone and iPad lets you check things like social media follows, page views, unique visitors. A blog app that makes it easy to post from your iPhone or iPad. They have the logo creator on site, which makes it easy for you to create a logo. They use all the Google fonts. You have literally more than 300 fonts available to you to use. And, of course, the best hosting that just never goes down. I want you to try it right now. 2 weeks free, no credit card required. If you do decide to buy a site, by the way, if you do a temp site, a two-week site, and you want to continue it, it just continues on. Well, I like that. The udon version makes me hungry just looking at that.
Or if you want to get into knitting.
You know what? That looks like the little twit guy, only he ate some bad bad burrito and he fell over. Or something. Maybe he got a little swollen.
He's been left at the doorstep of the orphanage to be raised by kindly nuns.
Squarespace. Use the offer code MacBreak to get 10% off when you buy. MacBreak. The offer code. A better web awaits. It starts with your brand new site at squarespace.com. The little guy is eating apples, somebody said. So I'm sorry, I didn't understand this. See, I am in the public beta. So I got Yosemite Public Beta 5, but others are, I guess, developers are getting the Golden Master 2.
3 just went out 4 days ago.
Is that the same as Seed Beta 5?
No.
So you're getting something different than I'm getting.
And I think the public beta was updated again after the Gold Master 3 came out.
Wow. So Golden Master in earlier times meant this is it, we're done, unless there's a showstopper.
Well, they were preemptive because when the first one came out, it was Golden Master Release Candidate 1.
It was a candidate.
And yeah, so this is a Release Candidate 3.
Okay. Gold Master 3.
Lots of moving pieces, Leo.
There's nothing to read into this. This just means they're getting closer and closer.
I mean, I am much happier they're doing this than me having to worry about anything going wrong.
I don't want to.
They didn't.
Yeah, I don't want a showstopper. Second beta of iOS 8.1 also out, and I think Apple's learned from 8.01 that you better check that pretty carefully too.
Yeah.
How did that happen? I mean, weren't lots of developers using 8.0.1? I mean, why didn't anybody know that this was going to kill the LTE?
8.0.1 wasn't the release to developer. It was a bug fix update for the week before issued iOS 8, and it did go to carriers, I believe, but it didn't affect everyone. It only affected people who did the Delta, the bit differential update on the iPhone 6. So there were 10 million iPhone 6s on the market, and about 40,000 people got affected, which is a huge number. Yeah.
Oh, wasn't universal.
No, it depended. I'm not quite exactly sure but a certain criteria had to be hit for you to have the problem, and they pulled it within an hour, which also mitigated the problem. Some people could still get it, but because CDNs are funny that way. Right. But a lot of people, they stopped it almost immediately, so it was
I was
really
lucky because Jeff Needles in our office had installed it, and he said, "Stop! Don't do it. I just lost Touch ID and LTE."
Yeah,
so I was lucky.
Yeah. And so, sometimes there are processes, sometimes those processes break down, but I'm willing to bet that the same thing that happened with the CDN at the iPhone event happened when that process broke down, and it's not going to happen again.
Not going to happen again.
Yeah.
But we should clear some space on your phone, especially if you have a 16 gig phone.
They're still selling 8 gig iPhone 5Cs, and they were selling iPhone 4s with 8 gigs in the BRIC countries. The India and China.
Is that enough? You probably can't even update it with that 8.
I think you have 5 gigabytes left after the operating system with that. Now, these are sold in countries where people can get, like, for example, just a BlackBerry Messenger plan or just a Facebook Messenger plan, and they use them as their principal form of communications. But it's got a camera on it, and people are going to take pictures. And likely Apple is as painfully aware of this as we are now. And for example, Google Chrome does streaming updates now. The new bits just come down all the time, and you don't really have to worry about the space. And I'm guessing that people are trying to figure out how to do something more. It's also iOS 8 was fundamentally, like, they changed so many things. They rewrote so many things.
How much free space did you have to have?
5 gigs.
5 gigs.
Yeah.
That's an awful lot.
Well, you had to download it, you had to decompress it, and you had to have room to move the files around while you were updating it.
Golly. Do we think 8.1 will be like that? No.
No.
Because it can be a Delta.
Yeah, it'll be. Well, they're all Deltas if you do it on device. It's just that Delta was really big.
Delta. I got a giant Delta.
Yeah.
Carl Icahn says Apple is dramatically undervalued in an open letter to Tim Cook. Tim Cook says we're buying back stock like crazy. What are you nuts? It says Apple says we're executing the largest return in shareholder value in the history of the world. Icahn says you got to accelerate the repurchase. Remember, Icahn is this. I mean, he doesn't have any of our interests at heart.
Oh.
Right. he's just a militant investor. Apple's response to Icahn was like this, quote, "We always appreciate hearing from our shareholders." This is in response to an open letter. Since 2013, we've been aggressively executing the largest capital return program in corporate history. as we've said before, we will review the program annually and take into account the input from all our shareholders. Thank you, Carl.
Even the bat spit crazy ones.
You may sit down now, sir.
They have returned $74 billion to shareholders. That's on the way to $130 billion by the end of this year.
A lot of zeros.
But I think Carl just says, but I see there's more. I'd like some more.
Lately?
Please, sir, can I have some more? What do you think? I'd like your opinion on this GT Sapphire business. The Sapphire company that built a plant in Mesa, Arizona to make sapphire, we think, for the iPhone. Now, Chapter 11, and they say we're going to close the Mesa plant. And they've started, in their own defense, releasing documents about their relationship with Apple. They blame Apple. I think you could reasonably say that Apple might blame them, that GT Advanced Technologies had a deal to produce a certain product. The product didn't work or was too expensive or for whatever reason. So Apple said, well, we can't use it. The Sapphire, one of the things we've learned is that the supplier contracts to Apple's suppliers, including GT Advanced Technologies, have a $50 million penalty per occurrence if any information about an upcoming unannounced product leaks out. $50 million.
You wonder about all those Foxconn leaks.
Wow. That shows you the power, though, of an Apple supplier contract. I mean, they're willing to sign these deals because, well, they figure they're going to make a lot of money on it. GT Advanced in the filing, the bankruptcy filing, noted that even the confidentiality agreement between the two companies is identified as confidential. Oh, yeah. And by the way, the confidentiality agreement, it's confidential. It's a recursive.
And that one is confidential, too.
Yeah, and the fact that it's confidential, that's confidential.
Unless your lawyer gets on the NDA, you can't get legal counsel on this. You'll just have to.
Apple made a $578 million deal with GT for a Sapphire. They gave them the capital to buy the supplies. What do you think happened? Apple designed and built the facility.
I can only liken it to when I signed my first agreement to buy a house. You know, my first mortgage. When you have that, like it's a deal. You know what a mortgage is, and then all of a sudden you actually have to sign it, and all those numbers become very real, and there's this moment of panic, because those Apple deals are huge, but the deliveries and the penalties and everything are equally huge. And from reading what they are saying, and the way they're phrasing it, and how onerous the deal was, that they went into this seeing numbers and then got very afraid and then tried to look for any way they could to get out of it.
The Wall Street Journal has filed with the bankruptcy court to release all of the documents. So we shall see. We may, as is often the case with these court cases, the stuff then becomes public information, and suddenly we learn a lot, like a $50 million penalty for leaking.
Well, yeah, so do they get fined if the stuff is released and the information is made available through the courts? I mean, it's so nebulous to me. And I
don't think they can be fined for that, right? Because that's not their fault, right?
Well, they were saying that one of the articles I read was like that they were panicked. They were asking the court to seal even the request to seal things because they were afraid that it would violate their agreements.
Wow. Also, reportedly, Apple withheld a $139 million payment to GT Advanced ahead of bankruptcy filings. Apple says, we were surprised that they filed for bankruptcy. And the suspicion is that GT did not meet Apple's tech specs, and that's why Apple had to bail on them. So I'm not sure who's at fault.
Well, they did announce Sapphire for the watch, so Apple did, they do intend to ship products that use Sapphire glass, and they probably intended to use these facilities to produce at least some of that. So I'm sure Apple's not happy about it either.
The Journal reports that Apple did not make a final $139 million prepayment loan because GT had not met the technical milestones laid out by Apple. People familiar with the matter said. It's kind of an ugly mess.
And that's one of the problems with living. Sometimes, as much as Apple is conservative with some things like radio technology, they're not conservative with other things, and they really are at the bleeding edge of some technologies. And you wonder how many of them, because we've seen some of them publicly not work, but you always wonder how many of the other ones are really just not this year, folks. Sorry.
Right. And by the way, the CEO of GT apparently sold a bunch of stock right before the bankruptcy disclosure, which is kind of a no-no. He said, well, no, this was all planned ahead of time.
It was planned for 2 days before I did this.
Yeah, I planned it. Yeah, that's the ticket. I guess, does Apple have an obligation not to bankrupt companies by promising them the world? I feel bad for the employees, frankly.
I've heard about this with like Walmart, where like you'll get a tremendously big order, and if you can hit it, your fortunes are made, and if you miss it, wow, that's it for you.
Yeah, it's like shooting the moon. Chinese carriers took 1 million pre-orders for the iPhone and the iPhone 6 in the first 6 hours of availability. Still a pretty good demand in China for the iPhone now that it's there. It's hot, hot, hot. Sales begin Friday. 1 million though is less than. I mean, didn't we do what would U.S. was 11 million in the first 3 days, something like that?
Someone was including pre-orders.
Yeah.
And someone was predicting. I've read an article that said the pre-orders were much higher, but I think it still does highlight the two Chinas. That there is a China where they want to go for the cheap Android phone, and there is a China where a large iPhone that's the color gold is absolutely a sign of affluence. And there are a lot. You think that there's not a large upper class in China, but the size of China as a population divided by that percentage is still a lot of customers.
Right. I think that's exactly it. Yep.
But that's true everywhere. I mean, there's. You'll get one perspective on the phone market if you just hang out at certain bars in San Francisco, and you'll get a very, very different view of the phone market if you hang out at a bus stop, in almost every other city. Right. I mean, where it's not just one.
Every country has its 1%.
Not only that, but every country has different people who have different needs, and for whom even a subsidized phone that costs $199 is not going to be the same value for them as it will be for somebody else. Sometimes they really do want that $49 blister pack phone that they can buy and put minutes on as they go. Although China is a complicated market, I think that we also ignore that we're not just even the United States is not a country where everybody should be getting an iPhone because goodness, it's the best phone out there. It's only $199. Well, unfortunately, it's not an attractive deal for a great number of people that need phones these days.
Right.
Yeah, that's the same thing when you hear about
1% of a billion people. That's 10 million people.
Yeah.
Well, it's also when you hear market share reports and you realize Apple has 0% share of the under $400 phone market, it changes those numbers. Right. And up until 3 weeks ago, Apple had 0% share of the over 4-inch phone market. And all of those, in most industries like automotive or any long-standing industry, all of that is carefully taken into the picture, where smartphones and phones in general are still immature enough that we just get, this percentage share, and we think that it means everything.
Yeah, and see, and that's not. I'm sorry to get back to the same point, but I think that there's so much time wasted on points that have absolutely no relevance to anybody who is not investing tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in tech companies. Because when I do my morning blog rule to check out all the different blogs, all the different news sites, the things that make my eyes roll are when somebody wants to say, oh, well, did you know that month to month iPhone 5S sales over the past 2 quarters was over 4% lower than relevant sales for an HTC One phone of the same quarter? It's like, and this means what to whom? It means nothing to anybody. And so, if you're trying to move tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars of your own money around based on stock performance, then yes, I suppose that is relevant to you. And even then, you're going to have to take those numbers with a grain of salt because they're like poll figures. It's not a question of what the number is. It's what the question of what is the math that led to that number, and is that math valid? Otherwise, don't try to look for numbers to enhance your enjoyment of a product you're either already happy with or already unhappy with. The fact that Apple is outselling somebody will not make you happier with your iPhone 6 than you are right now. The fact that Samsung is doing better than the iPhone doesn't mean that your iPhone 6 is not as good as it is right now. So I think that's going to be an increasingly important message, as those people who just want to show you that graph and want you to compare the red line against the blue line because you're part of the red people and you don't want the blue people to have a good day. That's going to be even more important as the months go by, I think.
Wait a minute, I have to go back to the tote board. The numbers have been updated. It is apparently, according to Tencent, Chinese consumers pre-ordered 20 million iPhone 6 and 6 Plus smartphones in the first weekend. I think I misread the tote board there. So updated figures now. Wow.
The first article was in the first 6 hours.
Right.
Right.
Well, They got busy.
Yeah.
They woke
that,
up.
It's still a dazzlingly high number. I mean, every time I have to check on like sales figures on the iPhone 6 just for like statistics or just for background, and I find out that so they've sold 500 million phones at this point. That's not a low number of phones to have sold.
Zippity doo dah.
I'll take half of that in cash.
Apple has removed all Bose products from its retail stores. Goodbye.
Bose removed all the Beats products from NFL.
From the NFL. Yeah. Well, not all of them. Apparently, Colin Kaepernick and Richard Sherman are still wearing theirs, but they can afford to.
Well, it's an interesting thing because you have players who have their own deals and networks that have or leagues that have their own deals, and where are those going to?
Kaepernick is a deal with the NFL, the Beats to be wearing those headphones. He got fined $10,000 for wearing them at a post-game press conference against his contract, which said that he couldn't wear them within 90 minutes of the. He had to wear his beautiful Bose headphones.
Yeah. Can I ask, how much money do these people make, and why do they need to supplement their income with these extra deals? Where it's like, oh my God, I can barely make it on my $8 million a year. I need to get another $900,000 by making sure I'm wearing Beats headphones on the bench.
What's interesting to me is that because I had the good fortune of being with Jason Snell and John Gruber, I know nothing about sports. They know lots about sports. And they were saying that in football, there's no guaranteed contract. So if you're injured, you just don't get paid. So those sorts of deals help them make money in case they are injured.
Plus, your playing life is pretty short in many cases, just a few years. So you got to make it while you can.
Yeah.
That's why so many pro football players now own car dealerships.
Yeah.
I take this pile of money and put it on that pile of money.
He did get fined. He got fined $10,000, but then he was asked by reporters, well, who paid the fine? And Cap said, I prefer not to talk about that, which is pretty much means Beats paid the fine.
Because if I say the word Beats again, I'll be fined another $5,000. So I can't tell you who paid the fine for me.
My friend, a hip-hop legend, played that.
Mr. Dre to his friends. Let's take a break. When we come back, your picks of the week, my friends. Ready them. I'm desperate for a snack. That's why I'm rushing ahead to our Nature Box ad. I love my Nature Box. So do our employees. Nature Box are delicious snacks delivered to your door every month in a box. There's even a business plan for businesses, which we will start using because I think we had like 15 Nature Boxes a month at the last count. But they're so good. There are hundreds of delicious snacks. Look at this. Tart and tangy fruit medley, dried cranberries and apple bits, praline pumpkin seeds, pistachio power clusters, nut squares with almonds, cashews, and pistachios. All of these have 0 high fructose corn syrup, 0 trans fats, no artificial flavors, no artificial colors. They're nutritionist approved. Instead of going to the snack machine when you start losing energy in the middle of the day, go to the Nature Box. You'll even find snacks for vegans with their snacks with no sugar. They're gluten-free snacks. There's a choice for everybody. So this afternoon when you're hungry, do what I do. Grab an apple cinnamon crave or sriracha roasted cashews. Spicy. Or a cranberry macaroon granola. I had that for breakfast. So good and so much better than any other snack option out there. Look, I want you to try it. Nature Box is giving you a chance to get a free trial box of their most popular snacks right now. Just go to naturebox.com/twit. This is a new offer. What is this? Flax fortune cookies. Mini cookies with flax seeds. Ooh, yum. So that's healthy and delicious. Nature Box, I can't decide which one to open.
All of them.
Yeah, I should. They are resealable, They have the little Ziploc things. There are literally hundreds. Savory, sweet, and spicy to choose from. I think I'll have the pistachio power clusters. Naturebox.com/twit, and we thank them so much for supporting MacBreak Weekly. Rene, Ritchie, what's your pick of the week this week?
I just wanted to say for Nature Box, you guys were kind enough to send me one of those, and it was so much better than all the exactly the same orange or green colored food that I get at the corner store all the time, which is boring and old and stale. So yay, Nature Box.
Yeah, we'll put you on the list. There may be more coming your way.
So I'm trying out this. One of the problems people are having with these ginormous 6+ phones, because they are so huge, is typing one-handed. And this really is a hand and a half for phone. It's not ideal for one-handed use. It's almost impossible for one-handed use. But someone has now made a one-handed keyboard. So this is actually called one-handed keyboard, and it puts all the keys on one side. And if you want to switch sides, you just tap the arrow and it'll go to the other side. So right and left-handed friendly or specific task friendly. And it puts all the keys basically back where they were on the smaller iPhones. So you don't have to reach all the way over to hit the Q or hit the W. It's pretty close to where you are. And it's a little awkward to type with at first because I've gotten sort of used to the full wide Cadillac of keyboards that you get on the iPhone 6 Plus. But when you are walking, when you have coffee in one hand, when you have something else that you're holding, and you absolutely have to, like it's an emergency text or Twitter situation, the keyboard is right where you want it. It's right where your thumb needs it. It's right where Apple told us for years the optimal distance for a thumb-friendly keyboard would be. There are still issues with installing keyboards. You have to go into the keyboard, general keyboard, add new keyboard, add third-party keyboard. But once you've done that, it's in your stack with all your other keyboards, and it's really easy. You just hit the little globe icon, you switch to it, you type one-handed, and you go. And I've been using it all day, and it's been very good so far.
Have you found difficulties using third-party keyboards?
There's a couple things, like with all of extensibility, it's version 1.0. Like this is the worst version of extensibility it's ever going to ship.
Right.
So there are some issues. There's limits to the size. There's limits to what they can do in the extension versus what they have to call home. Like this keyboard, if you want the option to change colors, you have to allow full access because all of that functionality doesn't fit in the extension. It fits in the app. So you have to do that. And yeah, there was some with keyboards reverting, and Apple has security issues where they don't want it in password fields or the phone pad or other things. So it's not a perfect seamless experience. Ostensibly, that is to protect us from ourselves, which some people think is good and some people think is terrible, but that's a matter of opinion. But they're working much better, at least for me, on 8.1 beta. So hopefully everyone will enjoy that soon.
I did something somebody told me because I was complaining about the fact that when you go to password fields, I have to go back to the keyboard I don't like, and that's really the main reason I don't like it is because my passwords have upper and lower case, etc. And they said, well, just remove the Apple keyboard from the choices. But then, and maybe, I don't know if this is related, but now when I do a spotlight search, no keyboard pops up.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling like maybe I broke, maybe it's my fault I broke it. But all you have to do is go to keyboards, and you can remove any keyboard, including the English keyboard, just by hitting the edit key, the Apple keyboard.
Yeah, it's a workaround, but it's not a painless one.
Yeah, I look forward to the day when I can use third-party keyboards. See, no keyboard.
Yeah.
Makes it kind of hard to type in the search.
Well, it's like there's edge cases that they don't think anyone's going to uninstall the Apple keyboard, so it's not.
But of course, we're going to uninstall the Apple keyboard. Let me. I actually have not tried that. Let me see if that fixes the. No. I still. Oh, iOS 8, I love you.
But I mean, again, it is getting better. It's going to continue getting better. They have a really good team working on it.
They got a really good team working on it. Andrew Ihnatko is working on Crane Cam 3000, the future of video podcasting.
I'm just looking for the ideal angle to show you this this cool app that I was using over the weekend. It's called Sun Surveyor, and what it does is it will show you where the sun is going to be at any place on Earth at any time that you specify. And I'm using it as an example. While I was in New York last week, I really wanted to take a picture of this sculpture that was part of a pediment on this bank that's in the Bowery of New York. And of course, you want to get it when the sun is hitting it just right. And so you can get some information from Google Maps, but from here, it will actually show you, plug in, well, what day are you going to be there? Sunday? Okay, well, what's the location? Okay, we'll pull up Google Street View, for instance, and it will show you the path that the sun is going to be taking exactly that day. And each one of these little marks here shows you like what time that's going to be. And this is just the street view. So you can also pull up, let me see if I can get back. There we go. You can also just get a simpler view like this that simply shows you the arc of the sun as it's going to be moving around that neighborhood. So I could tell that if I'm going to get there by about, let's say, 10 o'clock, maybe 11 o'clock, that'll get the lighting exactly right. So this is right about the time that I was visiting. And as you can see, that's exactly where the sun was hitting at that time. It has so many other cool views like that, like where it also has like a enhanced reality mode where it'll just activate the camera and then just simply superimpose upon the view of the camera as you're moving it around. Like, here's where the sun is going to be at certain times of the day. So if you're trying to, like, if you're in the backyard and you're trying to figure out, I want to make sure I'm about to put out I'm thinking about places to put a new deck where's the sun going to hit at certain times of the day, at certain days of the year. Because let's say it's November now, but I want it to be really, really nice light when it's June. You can just stand in your backyard and just watch where the sun is going to be on a certain day and a time, like next July, and it will show you, okay, here's where the sun is going to be in the sky right there. It's a handy tool. It's not the only like sun and moon tracker. It will also track the moon, by the way. It's not the only tracker like that, but there are others that are like really super expensive. They're priced like pro tools. This one isn't dirt cheap. I think it's thank you for going to sleep at an inopportune moment. I believe it's like $10 on the iOS App Store, which is expensive enough that you like the fact that the developers, I'm sorry, $6.99, which is expensive enough that you're glad that the developers are actually going to be getting money for this, not so expensive that you won't simply buy it and put it in there just to have it there. It's a great, I love these little tools that you happen to just carry around on your phone, and you only maybe use them 3 or 4 times a year. But when you are in, let's say, Spain, you've checked into your hotel, you want to be somewhere, we were going to the beach and you want to be there when like the sun is just in the right position, you can basically get a preview of, you can get a weather report on where the sun is going to be anywhere at any time. If you want to take a picture of where you want them, this would be great, but I wish the moon were like there instead of there. You can actually plan things out and say, okay, if it's a city in Boston, let's say, if I come back on, let's say, August 13th, the moon will be right above where this hand on this statue is. So if I want to get a picture of the statue catching the moon, if I come back here on this time, this date, I will probably be able to get that shot if it's not cloudy. That's a lot of value to be able to put the moon in a statue's hand for only $7. That seems like a good value to me.
Sunsurveyor.com. I'm sorry, I'm just reading Nature Box.
I know, I got.
It's that good.
I don't want to make this into the extended commercial, but I had the exact same experience as Rene, where it's like, wow, I'm snacking, I'm enjoying food recreationally, only I don't feel like crap afterward.
It's amazing.
It turns out that feeling terrible after eating a Hostess cupcake is not a necessary part of snacking. There are other snacks that don't make you feel terrible.
Saddest day of my life when I realized that Krispy Kreme donuts don't make me feel good.
Yeah.
Hey, are you moved over back to the iPhone? Have you? What's the story there?
I have not moved back to the iPhone yet. I will likely be buying an iPhone 6. I'm telling myself because, well, it's the responsible thing to do is to have one for the library so that we can do further testing after the loan period is over. I'm waiting to see what Android L looks like. I will also say that, unfortunately, maybe for this experiment, it's I'm having too much fun with this Moto X watch. Moto 360
I love the
watch.
Moto 360.
It's like at New York Comic Con last week. Like every single day I was using it, I was relying on alerts. As you can see how fast it's doing speech to text, even though my face is on the opposite side of it. Yeah. It's just so useful. And with the last update that they did to the software,
battery life's much better. Yep.
I'm counting. I used to be able to count on maybe 12 to 14 hours. Now I'm counting on a full 24 and probably into the next afternoon. Yeah. So I have to say I hate lock-in as much as anybody else, but this is a good enough product that if it's a close thing between iOS and Android, I might stick with Android just to keep a hold of this watch because it really is quite useful.
Don't worry, Apple's going to have a watch in a month now.
It'll be much better. It'll be
so much
10 times better. Yes.
It'll be beautiful.
But yes, but I have to say that this, if it were not for this watch, yikes, boy, would I be tempted. I think iOS is having some growing pains right now. I think
now's
it's
not
be
a good
better
time.
In a few months.
Yeah.
Well, also because it really has to be supported by third-party apps that really take advantage of all these really great iOS 8 features. You know, last week I was over the moon about Transmit, which is still a great app, but I can imagine 2 months from now another app that's designed to do nothing more than we want to make sure that no matter where it is that you store your files, there's going to be a sharing mechanism inside every single bit of iOS 8 that will let you put a file onto Dropbox, put a picture onto Flickr, put something onto your Amazon storage, or even find local or remote file shares, and just do that all within whatever app you're using right now. So I'm loving the new iPhones a lot. I'm loving iOS 8 a lot. I'm using this and the new development stuff that's happening on iOS to give myself an excuse to wait until December or January to make a decision. But boy, is it a great! I love. Don't you love that quote, problem, unquote, where there are two fantastically mature and incredibly exciting platforms to choose from, and you can't choose between them because they're both so good.
You have 2 pockets, Andy Ihnatko. 2 pockets.
The hell you say? You're a liar. You're a Canadian liar. You're a French Canadian liar.
I only got 1 pocket.
Dropbox updated for the document providers, and I hope more and more do that. They're only doing it halfway, but I think they're going to update quickly, and then you'll have all those things wherever you want them. It's going to be really nice.
Speaking of Dropbox, they acquired an app that everybody loved. In fact, it really transformed how people use mail on the iOS platform called Mailbox. Good news. If you've wanted Mailbox on OS 10, I think Rene recommended it for OS 10. They've opened the beta up as of today, so everybody can go to mailboxapp.com and try Mailbox on the desktop. I still like Apple Mail, and I've been using MailMate, and I still use that. It's a power tool. So, but I just thought I'd mention that. And then I just took a picture of Andy using my friend Kevin Rose's new app, Tiny, 2 I's, Tiny. It's a very odd social app, I got to tell you. The idea of it is that you could snap stills or videos of tiny pictures, all of which will disappear in 24 hours. So it's like a public Snapchat, if that's not a contradiction in terms.
It looks like a social media app for flies.
I kind of like it. I brought it to London with me, and the problem is you can't go back now and look at my pictures from London. They're gone. They disappear. But you could follow people, and then you'll get this kind of video mosaic of all the little tiny videos and stills. And there's some people doing some really creative, interesting things with Tiny. I don't know if this is going to stick. In fact, in a way, I kind of say, get it now, before it goes away, because it really is just almost just like a little toy. But it's a fun toy, and it's free. TIINY for IO. Actually, it's really for iPhone. I don't think they have an iPad version of Tiny, and they certainly, absolutely don't have an Android version. This and the iPhone camera are 2 of the things that keep me using iOS. All right, everybody. That's about it for this edition of MacBreak Weekly. We have done everything we came to do. Yeehaw. We came not to bury the Macintosh, but to praise it. And day after tomorrow, we're all going to be here. Me and Andy, and Renee's going to be at the event. Maybe we can get a call from you after the event. If they let you try the brand new MacBook Air with Retina display or whatever the hell it is they're selling. 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 Eastern time next day after tomorrow. Thank you, Andy Ihnatko, for being here. Chicago Sun-Times. Always great to see you.
Thank you for accepting the limited resources of someone who had been doing 20,000 steps a day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and just had to be comatose yesterday.
Wow.
That's the bad. I'll tell you, that's the bad.
You know
thing
that, don't you? Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I can actually document how incredibly exhausted I am right now.
They even give you a graph.
Exactly.
Of your week.
Exhaustion graph.
I can't wait till tomorrow so I get that 5-day line where, hey, slug, hey, jackrabbit, hey, jackrabbit, hey, jackrabbit, slug.
It's really actually fun. I did not believe in wearables until I kind of got some time with it. Like, as I mentioned last week, navigating London and stuff. It's really cool. Rene Ritchie's at imore.com, and he also does quite a few podcasts, including the Great Debug podcast. You got to listen to the Don Melton episode, but every week is a revelation. Yeah. Anything to plug this week? Any other scoops?
We're going to have the second part of Melton and Ganatra going up, I think, tomorrow. So you can hear more of that if that's what you like. And we did a live Vector podcast from Singleton talking about Satya Nadella and some other things.
Make sure you check out imore.com. No, there isn't an I less.
Not until April Fool's Day.
We do this show 11 a.m. Pacific. That's 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC, every Tuesday on live.twit.tv. You can watch live, and if you do, we love it. But if not, on-demand audio and video available after the fact everywhere netcasts are aggregated and distributed via the internet. You can also subscribe or watch through our third-party apps. Some great apps available for iOS, Android, Windows Phone, even Roku. Just search for Twit on your favorite app store. I'm Leo Laporte. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Now get back to work because break time is over.